Welcome again to our New Testament challenge. This morning we're at Luke chapter 15. I'm excited about this chapter because having done some other ones, you have to pick kind of one story out of the whole chapter or maybe give a brief overview. But this is great because this whole chapter covers one pivotal idea, one that if I think we get really will make a difference in our life. Now, to understand it, we need to understand, though there are three parables, all of them are connected. See, one of the parables are more famous than the other two. It's the parable of the prodigal son. So much so that if you talk to people who don't go to church and mention the story of the prodigal son, it's kind of weaved in culture, and they can tell you what it's about. And yet, Jesus uses this as one of three stories to get a point across to some people to hopefully direct them to understand and be drawn to God. See, in the first two verses of Luke chapter 15, we see that Jesus is teaching. And around him, he has tax collectors, what one translation calls notorious sinners. They were good at sinning. And yet they had the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. See, they were coming to hear what Christ said. And they were complaining because they had to listen to Christ teach. And they said, even eat with these people who were so awful, so different than them. And so Christ uses three parables. But the third one he uses really to make his point. See, it's kind of like it's a jab, and in boxing, a hook. Because see, he has a parable. The first one, something is lost, something is found, there's great rejoicing. Something is lost, the second one, something is found, great rejoicing. And then there's the third one, something is lost, something is found, there's great rejoicing, but there's a footnote there. Remember, the first one is that of the shepherd who has a lost sheep. He finds the sheep. There's great rejoicing. The second is a woman who loses a very important coin, a necklace that would have been given by her husband when they were betrothed. And she looks and she finds the coin and she draws her friends around her and they all rejoice. Remember, both of those, something lost, something found, great rejoicing. Then there's the third one. There's the prodigal son. And in this one, Jesus brings so much more detail that a Jewish person could really appreciate this story. And what is the father going to do with his son who's wasted his inheritance? And, we know the end. They don't. But see, this story has a twist. Something is lost, the son. Remember, he blows his money. He realizes he comes back to the father. The father receives him. Something is found. And then the father throws this huge feast for the whole town. He kills a special calf that is used for celebration. Everyone rejoices. But see, here's where the hook is. The older brother is upset. He draws the father away and he's angry. He's trying to understand, why is it that I have always served you? I've stayed faithful. And this son of yours, as he says it, goes off, blows all the money. He comes back and you have a feast for him? You've not even had a small party for me. And the father tries to talk to him and say, don't you understand? Everything I have is yours, but your son was lost. He was dead, and yet now he's found. See, Jesus warned the Pharisees, rather than being upset that these people who had kind of faded away from God, and were gone, now they're here. And rather than being upset they had to associate themselves with them, they could be excited that these people who were lost were now found. See, there's always a danger when we go to God's Word, and that is to read it for what it says to others. I like to call it, elbow amens. You're in a sermon, and there's a point that Pastor Mark makes, and you don't make sure your spouse or your kid hits it, and you go, did you hear that? What are we doing? We're listening in their ears. Or if you ever heard a sermon, you think, oh my goodness, when is this online? Because I know who needs to hear this. See, the danger of that is we're listening not for what God is saying to us, but we're listening for what maybe God will say to someone else. And the moment we turn our eyes and think of others, we lose the ability for God to speak to us. See, the Pharisees were so concerned with those around them, they weren't listening to what God was saying through Christ to them. And here's our challenge, guys. As we go to God's Word, let's not think about others. Let's think about us. And let's be able to say, God, here's your truth. Speak to me. Guys, thank you for continuing on the New Testament challenge. Join us tomorrow for Luke chapter 16. And hey, share the link. Share the text with someone else. And maybe you can get someone else who can be encouraged daily.